The spraying process. There are different methods of spray painting for different types of applications. Conventional low-pressure compressed air spray painting is typically used for Awlgrip top coats and low-viscosity primers. This gives an extensive overspray, bounce in cavities, corners and high sound levels. Airless spray painting is a high-pressure application typically used for high-viscosity primers. This carries a risk of injection injuries and static electricity which could cause a spark. Air-assisted airless spray painting is, for example, used when applying finishing primers. This application method uses less aerosol and overspray than conventional methods, though again carries the risk of injection injuries. Pressure pots used with spraying equipment are accompanied by various risks. They're an awkward manual handling hazard for the spraying team, and they can be subject to over-pressurization. The mixing, pouring and reducing of paint should always be carried out in a well-ventilated area. There are a few factors to consider. Appropriate protective equipment should be worn. All spills and splashes should be cleaned up immediately. And if any of the materials being handled are splashed onto parts of the body, then the skin should be cleaned immediately with soap and water. You should never use paint reducers to clean areas of the body, as they can be absorbed by the skin. Any contaminated clothing should be removed and changed at the earliest opportunity. Unused materials should be returned to their original containers. You should never mix materials together. Empty cans should be removed to a suitable place and allowed to dry before being disposed of in accordance with local regulations. Any two-pack materials allowed to pot before disposal should be isolated due to the potential for an exothermic or heat-generating reaction. Paint and associated materials should be stored in accordance with the relevant local legislation, but as a general rule, the following guidelines should be applied. Flammable materials should be stored in tightly closed, clearly labelled containers. Lids should be replaced after use. Large solvent containers should be earthed during liquid transfer operations, and paint should not be stored in the spray area. It is vital that all equipment is regularly inspected and maintained in good working order. Hoses should be regularly checked for leaks. You should use appropriate materials to capture drips or overspray. Absorbent materials such as paper or sawdust should not be used, as they'll increase the risk of fire or explosion. All used cleaning rags and similar materials should be placed in metal containers with close-fitting lids and, if practical, dampened with water. All waste material should be disposed of in accordance with local regulations. Spray guns must never be directed towards other workers to ensure that they are not exposed to the spray of hazardous materials or the risk of injection injury. It's important to control the mist of the spray to minimize the risk of exposure to those around you. When spraying in a booth, the object being sprayed should always be between the sprayer and the exhaust air outlet. Extraction of the booth should be checked prior to application, and the airflow at the point of application should meet national requirements. The equipment must also be maintained regularly. When spraying in the open air, there are a few points to remember. If possible, you should use protective sheeting or screens to stop the spray mist travelling. You should mark out an exclusion zone with cones, and tape and warning signs should be put up. This zone should only be entered by the application team, and all other staff should be kept upwind of the spraying. Spraying in high winds should be avoided. There are a number of factors to consider when entering confined spaces. You should assess whether the atmosphere contains or will contain sufficient oxygen during the whole process so that normal respiratory functions can be maintained. If solvent vapors force air out of a confined space, then the atmosphere's oxygen levels may drop to dangerous levels. The solvent vapor level should be controlled below the exposure limit. This can be done by ventilation or extraction of the confined space. Signs should be displayed outside the confined area to indicate that spraying is in progress. In order to protect you, a full face mask and a second disposable overall are strongly recommended. The extraction of a spray booth should be checked prior to application commencing, and the airflow at the point of application should meet national requirements. Work should be carried out away from entry doors, and these should carry a sign or indication that spraying's in progress. If possible, you should avoid standing or spraying into the airflow. You should also aim to minimize the time spent in a position between the object and the direction of the airflow. All extraction and ventilation equipment should be maintained according to the supplier's or installer's instructions. When work is taking place in the workshop, it should be carried out away from entry doors or other facilities. Entry doors should carry a sign or some indication of spraying in progress. If possible, objects should be sprayed on a turntable or a device that allows easy maneuvering. There are a number of simple points to consider when spraying. Before spraying, you should read and follow the health and safety instructions provided. Put on all PPE, including a respirator, before entering the spray area. Wear an overall with full-length sleeves, legs and a hood. Keep the buttons and zips fully fastened. Wear long-sleeve gloves and boots. Make sure there are no gaps or exposed skin at your wrists and ankles. And wear a full face mask or half face mask with goggles. During spraying, it's important to keep everyone out of the area except the application team, and to prevent or control exposure to mists and vapors as far as practicable. You should never remove any PPE, even for a short period of time. Remove your face mask in the booth. Wait at least 10 minutes or until the vapor is cleared before removing your respirator. Or wait until early asthma symptoms occur. By then, it's too late. After spraying, you should clean down any overspray. Remove your PPE starting from the outer layer. Wash before eating, drinking or smoking. Shower before going home or as soon as possible if you've been in contact with paint. Wash your face mask and inside your helmet every day. Replace your gloves as soon as the inside looks dirty. And store PPE outside the spray area when it's not in use. At any time, do not allow paint or dry spray to come into contact with your skin. Allow rubbish to build up in the work area, or allow horseplay in the work area. Or clean spray guns in an open workroom.